National Education Union. Firstly, I'd like to thank the organisers of this event, and also thank you for inviting me to speak and say a few words. I'm incredibly nervous, so please bear with me. In this country, we're in a social crisis this winter. There are thousands and thousands of people who are frightened to turn on their heating. There are thousands and thousands of people who can't afford to eat. There are hundreds of thousands who can't make ends meet. There are teachers, support staff, nurses, and civil servants who have to use food banks. I remember when a food bank opened just down the road from where I lived, not that long ago. I was shocked, I was angry, and I was ashamed. That same food bank has now extended to become a food bank, a clothing bank, a bedding bank, and is open on a lot more days than it used to be. And why is there such a social crisis? The government says it's the war in Ukraine that's caused it. Well, a loud noise can trigger an avalanche, but the cause of the problem is the build-up of snow beforehand. And in the same way, the war in Ukraine is a trigger for this crisis, but the underlying reason, the reason why people can't afford these hikes in prices, is that pay has been held down so long as a direct result of this government's anti-worker, anti-union policies. Pay has been held down since 2010. It's been held down for the longest period in 200 years. That's the real problem. The pay rises we're all seeking are the solution to the crisis. They're not the cause of inflation, and the pay rises are affordable. If the government can afford to hand out billions in bank tax handouts, it can afford to meet the basic needs of those who keep the country going. Pay rises are not the cause of the price rises that we are seeing. They're the solution to the problem caused by the price rises. And the government isn't seeking to control the prices of anything except for one thing, the price of our labour. Let me repeat, in this country, we're in a social crisis this winter. There are thousands and thousands of people who are frightened to turn their heating on. There are children coming to our schools hungry. But what's the government's reaction? They want the pay freeze to continue. We already have the most stringent anti-union laws in the Western world, and now the government wants to go even further. They want even more attacks on unions, like the minimum service attacks on the RMT. And now they intend to extend that to other areas like education and health. They've set huge voting thresholds, far more than the politicians have to get, in order to stop workers being able to take strike action. And when, despite that, workers pass those thresholds, the government then says it wants to increase them further. They thought that making unions reballot after 6 months would make it impossible for unions. Well, now that unions are successfully reballoting, the government now say they want to make it every 6 months. This government wants further deregulation, more academisation of schools, further privatisation of our NHS, and they want to they want further removals of rights at work. And why do they want to go further? Because despite everything they've done, we are still here. Trade unions are still here, and we're growing again. We're more popular than we've been for decades. Despite everything thrown at us, many unions are passing those thresholds, winning ballots and taking action, and are more connected to their members than ever before. NEU members are encouraged and inspired by the principled and determined action of other workers, not only because they too need and deserve a decent pay rise, but also because the RCN, UCU and other unions have shown us that it is possible to beat those government-imposed thresholds. And it is possible to take action in furtherance of pay, jobs and working conditions. And look how frightened the government is about us coordinating industrial action. We are back and we have public support. And now we must make the demands for a rebalance in our society. Like Mick Lynch says, we have to say we don't agree with being poor anymore. And more than anything else, this means building every struggle, and it means coordinating wherever we can. It means being outside the hospitals with the nurses, outside the depots with postal workers, outside the stations with the railway workers, with our union banners and flags. The NEU are currently balloting for action, and our ballot closes on January the 13th. If you see a teacher, if you speak to a teacher before the 13th, please ask them if they've voted. Our sixth form college teachers have already won their ballot, and they took their first day of strike action on the same day as UCU were on strike. We want to be part of a wider coordinated action with not only our sister education unions, but with all unions. Now is the time. Thank you.